Chris Rogers, deer manager on a private estate in Suffolk. I'm employed full-time. We've got 10,500 acres of ground. We've got about 1,800 acres of woodland, and we're shooting about 300 deer a year. That's roe, muntjac and red deer. So on the estate we manage red and roe to try and maintain a stable population.
By sustainable, I think we mean where the positive benefits outweigh the negative impacts. So it's not about how many deer, it's about the impacts of the deer that are there. We're very much involved in trying to ensure that the people that are doing the shooting are doing it, one, for the right reason, two, humanely, and three, to the level that is necessary.
We've just shot a roe buck, and when we shot, the roe was stood here. You can see where the bullets hit it. You've got some hair on the ground, and then we've got evidence of the bullet going through the heart-lung area, and then the deer's run off, which is reasonably common when you shoot them in the chest. It's basically running on adrenaline. So we can now, to find the deer, we can just follow the blood trail which leads into the wood, and hopefully we'll find the deer about 50 metres in there. They're basically running dead. As soon as the bullet hits the body, the brain automatically tells them to run as a natural reflex. So although the animal is, in a lot of cases, dead, adrenaline is just keeping the body moving until eventually it falls over. A spot on heart-lung shot, so the bullets come in here, just behind the shoulder, and it's exited pretty much in the same place on the other side. Because the quality of the antlers is quite poor. You can see how they're uneven. The left-hand side is a lot worse than the right-hand side, so from a genetic point of view, this is a good one for us to take.
The sustainable number of deer is that which the population as a whole and locally is willing to put up with. So for example, in Thetford it might be really quite a high number, but if you went to, say, Bury St Edmunds itself, they might not want many deer around the town centre, or they might not want deer on the roads on the A11 outside Bury St Edmunds. So it's really about what people think is acceptable.
If we've got a sort of 2 or 3 herds in this area, a group of 25 or 30 here, 2 or 3 fields where there'll be another group of 15, another 20 around the corner of the next hedgerow on the next door's farm, that gives this area a population of 80 to 100 fallow deer. How many do you think would be sustainable for you as a landowner?
To the point where I wouldn't get the rifle out to go after them. I should think somewhere between 4 to 10. No, 4 to 8.
Yeah. So sort of a woodland density of 10 deer, 8 deer per square kilometre of woodland, probably, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that they would have a good life, and it wouldn't damage the woods.
Yeah.
I would have thought.
Yeah. So the challenge is how we manage deer across the landscape in this area to those sort of levels.
There's 2 options to reduce damage to woodland. One of them is to fence an area, and the other one is to shoot the deer harder. Fencing an area really is only a temporary measure. It's very expensive for the landowner, and it doesn't really solve the problem. So what we've got on the right hand side of the track here is old hazel coppice woodland. Now there's 2 problems with this. The value of timber isn't that great, so at the moment it costs a lot of money for the landowner to do some forestry work, which means it doesn't happen, which means that it progressively deteriorates in quality. Also, the landowner isn't willing to do the work because unfenced, the deer will just eat the hazel coppice off. That then leads to more problems with the understory of the forest being shaded out in the summer. If you imagine when there's leaves on the trees, it's very dark underneath, so nothing can grow to its full potential. So what little does grow gets eaten off by the deer quite quickly. On the other side of the ride here, coming across to my left, this is a hazel coppice coop that's been deer fenced and worked regularly for probably the last 20-30 years. You can see the difference in the silver birch regeneration in there. There's hazel regeneration in there from the coppice that was cut back, and that's a far better habitat for songbirds and small mammals and stuff. There is another problem with that, is that it's now so thick because there aren't any native deer in there like roe or red deer controlling the bramble growth and the forestry growth. So we have two sides of the coin. If you have a deer fence, you end up with an unnatural amount of growth compared to no deer fence at all with very little growth.
Our toolbox of management is pretty limited, and effectively you're really talking about exclusion, protection, or culling, and in most situations you're actually talking about a combination of the three. So there might be areas where we want to exclude deer, and for example on the continent they exclude deer from the autobahns or from the motorways, so that the deer can't actually cause road traffic accidents on the motorways. But you might also want to, with some of the woodlands in the east of England for example, they're relatively small woodlands, so you could actually fence the whole woodland, but that is not necessarily very helpful. But in the end, what we try to do is reduce deer numbers to a level where the impacts become acceptable again.
And you reduce the numbers through
By
culling?
shooting, by shooting.
This is a young muntjac buck, probably around about a year old. So when we go out to shoot the deer, generally we're aiming what we call the heart-lung area, which is this area on the chest here. It's the best area to aim because you've got the biggest area to hit to kill the deer humanely. We could try and shoot it in the brain, which would be an instant kill, but the target area is a lot smaller, so statistically we're more likely to hit it in this area than in this area. So we've taken the stomach out. That just gets left in the wood here, and that benefits the animals in the woods. Foxes for example, or badgers will come along and eat that. It's still got its heart, lungs and liver inside it. We'll take that back to the deer larder and clean that out properly. Then this carcass will go into the food chain